Hi, I'm Rides. Welcome to another episode of What's in the Box. Episode 10, box number 25 this week. It's quite a special box. It has two bikes in it, one frame set and one complete bike. It'll be our first complete bike that I show you, and as I said, quite a special one for me. I love this bike. But before we get on to opening this box up, let's take a look at which box we're going to open next week. Box number 10. Okay, so this is box 25. As I said, let's get it open and take a look at what's inside. The first frame set in this box is this one. I'll take the wrapping off and let's take a look. Okay, so here we have a 1982 Redline MX2. I did buy this one fully complete. There is a box behind me, a small container that has some of the parts. There are some wheels kicking around here as well. It did have blue arrays on it. It has the original brute stem that comes with it as well. But this is the frame set. It is pretty rough. The chrome is pretty beaten up. This is the Australian version of this frame. There is no serial number, but it is stamped with Redline on the bottom bracket. They only made this no serial number version, I believe, in 1982. They obviously had some made specifically for Australia or made here in Australia. I'm not 100% sure which one. It is full chromo frame, and this is the original fork that came with that. It does have some very rusted out end plugs. I have put this in the bath. It has been tidied up a little bit, but I have had it in storage for quite a few years, so it probably just needs a bit more of a cleanup than anything. I probably wouldn't bath it again. The rust has not come back, but it's just filthy. So the classic old school Redline frame aren't particularly rare, though the parts on them certainly are. The brute stems, I mean, go for $500, something like that these days, which is pretty crazy. It's definitely nice to have a complete frame set. Whether the parts that I bought with it are 100% original or not, I don't know. It didn't have the original seat. I would expect this to have probably had a blue Eleanor seat with it. V-bars that would have come on this frame, I think, were original. I had them re-chromed at some point. They are sitting somewhere in this rack. Quite a small little frame, very short top tube. It's probably about an 18 or an 18.5 inch. So certainly something that I wouldn't be able to ride these days. Be way too small for me. I love having these old frames from the era that certainly I was out at the track. Not that I had anything as fancy as these. All right, well, that's the Australian version of the 82 Redline MX2. I will get the other bike up. It is in a couple of parts. I'll do what I can to show you what that one is. This is the full complete bike that is in box number 25. It is my Eastern Commando. So I'll take off all the wrapping and we can have a look at this one. Well, this is my 98 Eastern Commando. Bought this quite some time ago, about 2015, I think. It was in a basement. A guy that had purchased a whole bunch of bikes from a police auction and then was selling them off. He didn't really know much about what this bike was or anything about it. To be honest, neither did I back at the time. I just really liked it. It had a bunch of great parts on it, and I decided that I couldn't leave without buying it from him. So it was a little different to when I bought it to what it is now. I have updated a couple of things on it. As you'll see here on some of the photos, some of the parts are a little different. So it originally had Hoffman love handles on it, which was fine. I absolutely love the love handles. It was just, I wanted to put them on a Hoffman. So I've put some Peregrine Q1.5 bars on this one. Mainly I chose the Peregrine. I thought that they were kind of certainly era correct from the sort of mid-late 90s, but also the wheels on this one, it has triple wall Peregrine rim. They are absolutely stunning, and I wanted to kind of match that back with the Q bar. So some of the other parts, we've got a redneck stem, standard bike company fork, Diacomp Nippon front brake, Diacomp AD990 on the rear, Primo seat clamp, and then profile cranks and profile chain wheel. Son of a Bomb Primo hubs on both front and rear, cassette hub on the rear here. So that's kind of how it currently sits. The serial number on this frame is bike number 2 that came off the production line. I did a lot of research back in the day when I first got this. Easton didn't have distributors in Australia back then, and given that it was the second bike off the production line, I kind of thought perhaps it was a pro rider's bike who had come out to Australia and maybe they left it here. I do know a couple of riders from back in the late 90s, early 2000s who have seen this bike and do remember it from Sydney back around those days. Still didn't ever find out whose bike it was. However, what I did discover was that the first bike number 1 that came off the production line, went to a factory rider for Easton back in the day. I contacted John on Instagram and asked him a bunch of questions, and he was kind enough to answer them, and so I wrote a blog post back around that and kind of what he's up to. The Easton Commando was the first production frame that Easton ever made. They were only sold as a frame only. It has a very distinctive head tube with the tubes being punched through, and it has the stander on the top. It weighs an absolute ton. It certainly is not helped by all of the tank-worthy parts that are on it as well. The wheels just absolutely weigh a ton as well. Triple wall chromed rims, certainly with, you know, very large Primo hubs. It does weigh a fair bit. I've taken this bike a number of times to BMX Show in Sydney when I was living up there. I will soon have the 99 Easton bikes catalogue up on BMX catalogue. I don't think the frames changed at all between 98, the first production run in 98, and also into 99. These first frames were made by SE in the US. And it's just really nice to have a piece of very early history on Easton, who came back to, you know, a bit of a rise last year at the Olympics. So anyway, that is my 1998 Easton Commando. Like I said, one of my favorite bikes in my collection. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly have enjoyed making this series. This was episode number 10. I've still got 20 more boxes to go. I've slowed down a little bit, putting out these videos every 2 weeks now. It's just a lot to keep dragging out. I don't get a lot of time to do much else. So every 2 weeks we'll show the next set of boxes. I might again split that up. Maybe I'll do 15 this series and create a series 2 later in the year. But anyway, so next week we'll have box number 10. Thanks again. Give us a like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.